in the Volkswagen Vento 1.2 TSI Joint Edition. That's a pretty long name, but let's look back at what the Vento has been to Malaysians. I mean, this car has been around for around 8 years now. It was first introduced as the Polo sedan way back in 2012, and eventually they introduced the CKD variant, which had the same 1.6 liter naturally aspirated powertrain, and later on they eventually expanded the range to include the 1.2 TSI engine that we knew from the Polo hatch at the time. By now, Malaysians are pretty familiar with small engines that are turbocharged powering larger cars, and you know, we've seen it in everything from SUVs to compact cars to even luxury models. And the Vento was one of the first in Malaysia for the mass market that actually fulfilled these criteria. So the 1.2 TSI produces about 105 horses and about 175 Newton meters of torque. It's paired with a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, and it's not a powertrain that, again, people are unfamiliar with because it's appeared in everything from the Beetle to the Polo hatch, and it's a fairly robust powertrain. It makes enough power and it has enough low-end torque that you never really feel like you don't have the performance that you need. Now, over the years, Volkswagen has slowly updated the Vento with various additions or trim changes that helps to keep it a little more relevant and fresh. So while the outside design may seem largely the same, there are a lot of things around the interior that have been improved. And you get things like a 6.5-inch touchscreen with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and MirrorLink. So you also get a rear view camera, you get one-touch indicators, you get auto up and down power windows for all 4 windows, which is great, and even automatic climate control. These are all features that slowly you'll find in some of the other offerings within the segment, the B segment rather, so to speak. But it still is a fairly premium car, and you know, despite the price tag, it definitely punches above its weight in terms of what it offers for the money. There's a lot of stuff that we like about the Vento. For one, it's very much a German engineered car. It drives like a German car, it drives like a Volkswagen. So if you've ever driven any of the other models, you won't feel alienated by this car. It handles well, it rides well, it's incredibly comfortable, and you know, these are things that you have to sort of test drive to understand. It's not something that I can say or write about. You'd have to really sit in it and drive it and experience it, because it's the sort of intangible things that define the Vento as a car that is worth your time or your consideration when you're looking in this part of the market for a new car. It's definitely something that still can compete with rivals that we see today, but that's not to say that there aren't things we don't necessarily like about the Vento. So this 1.2 TSI powertrain, it's robust in many ways, it's adequate in many ways here, but the dual clutch gearbox has had to be sort of neutered in different ways to make them last a little longer, because Volkswagen thankfully has resolved most of its dual clutch issues. You don't see many reports of them failing, but the result is a gearbox that at times can feel a little bit clunky. It sometimes is a bit slow to engage. The gearbox logic can be a bit frustrating to deal with, so you oftentimes when you're driving, you tend to just put it into manual mode, and you'll find it's a lot easier to handle like that. You still will have problems when you come to junctions or hill starts, because you have to be careful as it can roll back before the clutch engages, but over time you'll learn to deal with these things. From a personal preference standpoint, if we had to pick a Vento, we would probably choose the 1.6 MPI with the 6-speed conventional automatic. It's not, even though it's not turbocharged, it's not as high-tech in certain ways. Most of the features are the same because they're both Highline models, and They feel a little smoother at higher speeds, especially when you're cruising on the highway. The automatic gearbox is great, it's smooth, it doesn't judder. And as an all-round package, it's nice. That being said, one of the standout advantages of the 1.2 TSI powertrain is it's very fuel efficient. So over the last weekend, we've been driving this around highways, sort of getting stuck in traffic, and it's just been sipping fuel. It still has about half a tank of fuel. And of course, after a while you realize that there's not much point in doing a specific fuel economy measurement, because you just have to drive it as you would day to day, and you'll find that it actually does sip fuel.